How does caffeine wake you up? Over 100,000 metric tons of caffeine are consumed all over the world every year. It is comparable to the weight of more than 10 Eiffel Towers. Approximately 90% of all adults in the world consume caffeine daily. Caffeine is mostly consumed in coffee and tea. How many cups of coffee do you take daily? Some soda, chocolate, beverages and some pills also contain caffeine. Caffeine helps us feel alert, focused, happy and energetic, even if we haven't had enough sleep. On the other hand, it can also increase blood pressure and make us feel anxious. Caffeine is naturally found in the fruit, leaves, and beans of coffee, cacao, and guarana plants. In high doses, it's toxic to insects. But when they consume it in lower doses, as in nectar, it can actually help them remember and revisit flowers. Caffeine is one of the most widely used drugs. So how does caffeine wake us up? In our body, caffeine acts as a stimulant for the central nervous system. It blocks one of the key sleep-inducing molecules, which we call adenosine, and keep us awake. Our body needs a constant supply of energy, which is stored in high-energy molecules called adenosine triphosphate or ATP. We consume energy, ATP is broken down and converted into adenosine. There are neurons in our central nervous systems. These neurons have receptors, perfectly tailored to adenosine. When the amount of adenosine increases, they bind to these receptors and let neurons know that our body runs out of energy. So the neurons work more sluggishly and slow the release of important brain signaling molecules. In other words, we feel sleepy. Caffeine has similar structure to that of adenosine, so it can bind these receptors. However, caffeine does the different job. Instead of slowing down, they stimulate neurons. So caffeine can boost positive feelings, and make us feel alert. In some neurons, the adenosine receptors are linked to the receptor for another molecule, called dopamine. One of the functions of dopamine is to promote feelings of pleasure. However, adenosine and dopamine cannot work simultaneously. When adenosine takes its spot in these receptors, dopamine can no longer fit, blocking its mood-lifting effect. On the other hand, when caffeine takes adenosine's place, the effect is different. Dopamine can easily take their spot and we feel happy. Some evidence shows that caffeine's effect on adenosine and dopamine receptor has beneficial long-term effects, reducing the risk of diseases like Alzheimer, Parkinson and some type of cancer. Although caffeine can make us feel better and more alert, not all effects are helpful. It can also increase our heart rate and blood pressure, cause increased urination or diarrhea, and contribute to insomnia and anxiety. The foods and beverages contain various amount of caffeine and have their own impacts on our body. Our brain can adapt to regular consumption of caffeine. When adenosine receptors are blocked, the neurons generate more. In this way, adenosine can still signal the brain to power down even in the presence of caffeine. This is why we need to consume more and more caffeine to feel alert. We need more caffeine to block more receptors. On the other hand, when we suddenly quit caffeine, there are plenty of adenosine receptors with no competition. So we may feel unpleasant withdrawal symptoms like tiredness, depressed moods and headaches. Within a few days, these receptors decrease, our body will readjust, and we will be as alert as before, even without taking a stimulant. In summary, caffeine makes us feel happy and alert, but it is not without downside. It can cause unpleasant effects, such as insomnia and palpitation. Moreover, too much caffeine can cause negative impacts on children, especially those younger than 12 years. Thanks for watching this video. If you learned something new from this video, consider subscribing EduTube channel.